Well, hello everyone. This is the problem we're going to work on from chapter 5 as a solution to the homework. And you're going to have to do the same type of problem for chapter 5 homework with just different numbers. Okay? This first problem focuses on account receivable transactions and how to record your uncollectible account expense. So you ready? Let's go. First transaction provided $110,000 of cleaning services on account. So we're going to determine how this transaction is going to impact the account equation. Well, our net realizable value of account receivable is going to increase by $170,000. Your retained earnings will increase by the same amount, and the account title for retained earning, because you provided a service, is going to be service revenue. For our second transaction, we collected $127,500 cash from account receivable. Therefore, our cash account increased by $127,500. The account receivable account decreased by $127,500. This transaction does not impact retained earnings or equity. We exchanged one asset, account receivable, for the other asset, which was cash. Then for our third transaction, we paid salaries of $40,000 for the year. So our cash account, excuse me, I had to sneeze. That was a big one. Cash account decreased by $40,000, and your retained earnings decreased by $40,000. Now, since you're paying out salaries, the account for retained earnings is going to be salaries expense. And then for our fourth transaction, adjusted the account to reflect management expectations that uncollectible account expense would be $1,400. The expense was determined using the percent of revenue method. So now we're going to decrease the net realizable account receivable by $1,400 by recognizing the allowance for a doubtful account. Retained earnings will decrease by $1,400, and you're going to recognize your uncollectible account expense. Okay, so let's check our work for this first part. Okay, yay, good job. Everything looks good there. So let's return to the question and take a look at part B. For part B, I think I skipped one. Go back to B1. We're now doing the income statement. All right. For part B1, we're now preparing the income statement. So we did have service revenue. I need your help. And that amount was $170,000. On the operating expenses, we had salaries expense, which I believe was for $40,000. I'm gonna check in a second. And we had uncollectible account expense, and I forgot that amount. But the good thing is to go back to requirement A, and I see salary expense was $40,000, and uncollectible was $1,400. Thank you. That was $1,400. So total operating expenses were $41,400. Subtract that from service revenue, and that would give us net income for $128,600. So let's check our work for B1. And ting, looks good. All right. We can move on to requirement B2, which is for the balance sheet. So for our assets, return the question. Forgot that last time. One of your classmates like, Professor Reeves, you didn't have to return a question, but that's why you couldn't do anything. I got it this time, so thank you. So going here, our cash account, one of our assets. We got accounts receivable. And then we're going to have the allowance for less. So it's a plus or a less. You want less the allowance for doubtful account. So again, your ending cash balance was $87,500. The accounts receivable account, let's see, the account receivable was 170 and they pay us 127,500. I should know it's in my head, but that's okay. That's why we have a calculator, right? That's what it's here for. So let's see, we're taking the $170,000, 170 minus the 127,500. So account receivable would be 42,500, but less the allowance for a doubtful account, which was 1,400. And make sure it's been subtracted. So total assets were 128,600. We didn't have any liabilities. Under stockholders' equity, we have retained earnings, and it has to match the balance sheet, but we can just go back here and check. So retained earnings received was also 128,600 was for your retained earnings. So now your balance sheet does balance. Our assets equal our liabilities plus stockholders' equity. And let's check our work on that one just to make sure. Didn't miss anything on that. The balance sheet looks good. And now we go on to requirement number 3, which is our statement of cash flows. So from our operating activities, okay, hit the thing again, return the question. So again, now for our operating activities, we will have the cash inflows from customers. And let's see, that amount was 127,500. And then we're going to have the outflow for expenses, and that amount was 40,000. So you see how that's shown as a positive, but there's a negative 40,000 because that was an outflow. So our net cash from operating was 87,500. We did not have any investing activities or financing activities. So our net change in cash was 87.5. This is year 1. So our beginning cash balance, which would be plus beginning cash balance, which was 0, that'll give us ending cash balance of 87,500. Let's click on the check my work button. And let's also make sure now it's an answer is complete and correct. So we have done all the required sections for this particular problem. All right. So again, you will have this same type of problem with different numbers. So you can use this as a guide to how to complete some of your Chapter 5 homework assignments. Okay? All right. Bye-bye.